This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. Other film podcasts are the other guys. We're the ones that do our jobs. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and from the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring, especially today. I am your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films for my own site, icecreamforfreaks.com, and a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. You can hear me guest on other pods as the David Thewlis of podcasting, and I'm joined by my brother and common man co-host, the man who does his job, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, everyone. Hey, doing good, buddy. How are you?
We are in for a treat today because we're going to talk about a very fun movie to talk about for a lot of different reasons. So I imagine we're probably going to go longer on this one than we are going to the other ones because we have a lot to go into. We are talking about The Departed, the Martin Scorsese directed film from 2002, directed by Martin Scorsese, written by William Monahan, based on the 2006 The Departed, based on the 2002 Hong Kong movie Infernal Affairs, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, co-starring Vera Farmiga, Alec Baldwin, Martin Sheen, Ray Winstone, Anthony Anderson, James Badgedale, Kevin Corrigan, Mark Ralston, a bunch of other random people you see all over the place. Opened wide on October 6, 2006, made a ton of money, 132.4 million domestic, 159 international, 291 total on a $90 million budget. Nominated for 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor for Mark Wahlberg, Best Adapted Screenplay in Film Editing, won everything except Supporting Actor. So Best Picture, Director, Adapted Screenplay, and Film Editing. On Rotten Tomatoes, a rare higher audience number than for a film this critically acclaimed. 90% fresh for critics, 94 for audiences. So a lot to get into. Our first Scorsese, our first DiCaprio, our first cop movie. So a lot to get into. Jake, why don't you give the people what they want and give them a quick rundown of what happened in The Departed?
All right, I'll try. Well, I'll go ahead and say I rewatched it.
As did I.
My wife had not ever seen it, and so I watched it with her, and she was like, "This is a confusing movie," and I was like, "No, it's not." And then when I was trying to basically figure out a synopsis for it, I was like, this is a confusing movie.
It's cops as gangsters, gangsters as cops. There's a lot of that back and forth. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So basically, Jack Nicholson plays Frank Costello, who is an Irish mob boss in South Boston. And he recruits at a young age Matt Damon's character, who is Colin Sullivan, recruits him. And so Sullivan works for Costello, and basically they implant him in to be a mole in the Massachusetts State Police. That's always been a problem for me, saying Massachusetts. But anyways, he becomes a state police cop, goes through the academy, and then they pretty much instantly make him this like hotshot detective. So Leonardo DiCaprio comes from a
Criminal-ish.
a gang affiliated family, criminal family, but not very good at it. Like they're low
Yeah.
bar on the as far as the hierarchy goes in the organized criminal world.
Yeah.
But anyways, DiCaprio plays William Costigan, Billy Costigan, and he completes the academy, and basically the Massachusetts State Police undercover unit recruits him in to infiltrate Frank Costello's organization. So basically, from the jump, you have the mobsters putting one of their guys in as a cop to infiltrate the state police, and the state police are putting in one of their guys to infiltrate the organized crime ring. So DiCaprio's character actually has to take a criminal charge and do prison time in order to establish his undercover, his UC profile.
Yeah.
And does infiltrate this organization. And Matt Damon successfully becomes this hotshot detective who is working for this major crime boss. A lot of this movie is basically them trying to figure out who they are. Like, who's the rat? Both organizations are constantly, they know they have a rat. They know they have to have a rat.
Yeah.
And so it's a cat and mouse game trying to figure out who it is.
Yeah.
So if that's not complicated enough, they throw in a love triangle
that neither one knows they're in.
Yeah, they don't realize it.
Yeah.
So basically they're effing the same chick, and one's an undercover cop working for the gangster, one's a cop working for the
as an undercover gangster. Yeah. You're right, it is confusing when you say it like that.
Yeah, but so there's a complex cat and mouse game that goes on. It ends up where Matt Damon's character realizes that that Jack Nicholson's character is actually an FBI informant, and so now he's worried that he's going to get turned into the feds.
Yeah.
For being a dirty cop. And DiCaprio's character is basically under constant threat of just being murdered.
Sure.
And so Martin Sheen plays the captain over the over this undercover unit for the state police. Donnie Wahlberg plays
Mark Wahlberg.
Sorry. Wrong brother. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg plays Sergeant Dingham, the who's kind of the head honcho underneath the captain.
Yeah.
For this UC unit, and man, the more I talk about it, the more I realize this is a confusing ass movie. But
shifting
So,
loyalties and realizing who you want and who, revenge and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it.
yeah. Yeah. Basically, during this whole process, while DiCaprio's undercover, he realizes, like, I mean, he wants out. He realizes, you know, he's gonna get whacked. Uh, and Matt Damon, once he realizes that Costello is a FBI informant, he realizes, you know, Frank Costello will sell him down the river to save his own skin.
Yeah.
So it kind of culminates at a point where they start kind of triangulating where, like, who the rats are for both people. They end up in a vacant, like, warehouse building. Martin Sheen's there. Martin Sheen, his character Captain Queenan, is trying. He's decided to get DiCaprio's character out of the UC. You know, try to get him out.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the mobsters have figured out, like I said, kind of triangulating, figured out where the rat probably is, and so everyone basically collides. The state police, the mobsters. Well, Martin Sheen ends up getting thrown off the building in graphic fashion.
Very.
And oh gosh. And then
so there's kind of like a subplot
here.
So
yeah,
there's like after Martin Sheen is killed, Matt Damon kind of sees this as his opportunity to get out of everything by eliminating Costello, by utilizing Billy Costigan as his undercover. Is like, okay, hey, let me know where you're going. We'll raid him, and that'll be that. And
Right.
It's successful. And Matt Damon ends up killing Costello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he ends up killing this mob boss that he's worked for because, out of self-interest.
Yeah,
basically. Sure. Well, and self-interest plays a major role
Big
in
time.
how this all plays out.
Mm-hmm.
So Sullivan, Matt Damon's character, figures out that DiCaprio's character, Billy, is the guy. And so he calls him and says, hey, come in out of, your UC role. And, and at that point, Costigan doesn't realize that
he's the rat. Yeah.
Sullivan's the rat on the other side.
Yeah.
So he comes in good faith, thinking, okay, I can finally be done with all this shit. And basically, so Sullivan ends up like deleting this guy's existence.
Yeah.
As far as the state police are concerned. Well, Costigan figures it out from an envelope that came from Frank Costello's character. And so he realizes the only one that can be in possession of that envelope has to be the rat inside the police force. So it comes to a head again at that same vacant warehouse location. And then everyone dies.
Pretty much. So Costigan is going to arrest Sullivan until he's killed by another mole that was in there. And then that mole kills Anthony Anderson. And then Matt Damon sees his way out by killing that guy. So bam, 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 3 headshots in a row. They're dead. And then funerals. And Costigan is a hero. And then Matt Damon goes home, and there's Dignam Mark Wahlberg, who shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
In the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg. During the conflict over who's who and all that, he ends up resigning from the state police, and you don't hear from him again until the very end.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon's character is bringing home some groceries, and there he is, and he schwacks him and then walks off, and then
that's that.
That's it.
And
to use the words of my wife, what the fuck did I just watch?
Luckily,
I mean, I liked it, but
it's one of those
the
things.
end is kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's essentially nobody got away clean. Nobody gets away feeling good about themselves. Nobody really wins. That's a good way to put it. There's a lot to get into with this movie. So a couple of quick trivia things of note. Okay, so the cops are liaising with the FBI, and there's a special agent in there with them that Mark Wahlberg likes to talk down to. He's the one who says maybe, maybe not, maybe fuck yourself. That actor is named Robert Wahlberg, and that is his brother. So
really?
Yeah, I found this out today, so I was like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Why have I never heard of that?
Yeah, exactly.
Just stay off of.
I don't think he does a whole lot. He does a little bit here and there. I just don't think he. I just don't think he's something that he. I don't think he's an actor. Like, I think
Limelight ain't for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Donnie and Mark are the ones that get all the stuff. But anyway, so that was that. And then the other thing, the thing that I remember the most about this movie is Martin Scorsese essentially let Jack Nicholson have carte blanche to develop the character. So whenever you see something wacky that he does, it was probably something that Nicholson came up with. The great example of being the cocaine threesome with the hookers after the opera, or pulling out a dildo in the middle of a porn theater, all Jack Nicholson's ideas. So, I mean, that's just, so anytime you're like, who thought of this? Is like, that's Jack Nicholson himself. So, that's actually the thing. This is
at one point, whenever he's grilling DiCaprio's character, trying to figure out if he's a rat, his hair's all crazy. He's looking crazy and everything. And it was reminiscent to me of The Shining. This guy is real good at looking whacked out.
Looking wacky. Yeah, I agree. One final thing to note from this movie. This is produced by a couple people, specifically Warner Brothers producer Brad Gray, but the rights were bought for $1.75 million by Brad Pitt in his first ever producer role. He initially bought it for the purpose of being in it himself, and then he just decided to produce it and was just there as a producer and had his buddies in it instead. So it could have been a very little different movie. There's a lot of different casting stuff as far as who could be in what, but okay. So like we said, this is the first cop movie we've addressed. And I know a lot of people who are our general watchers know, but you were a police officer for quite a few years. And so talk about how the stuff you think of cop wise, this movie touches on, not necessarily like the inside baseball stuff, but a lot of stuff that it does right or maybe does wrong.
Well, I think the most glaring thing that sticks out to me is Matt Damon's character. He goes through I will say, like, the police academy sequence isn't very long,
Yeah.
but I will say it pretty accurately
Captured
depicts,
things.
like, it's a lot of classroom time, a lot of PT, a lot of,
Testing.
you know, sorry to
Yeah,
sir,
yeah. Yeah.
like a lot of that shit.
I know what you mean.
But there's a point, like, whenever they graduate, the other guy who ends up being a mole in there,
Berrigan, James Badgedale. Yes.
yeah, he goes, "Oh, you lucky son of a bitch, plain clothes, straight out,
Straight out of the academy to plain clothes."
Yeah, and I'm like, that's not a thing. That, I mean, I won't pretend to know what the Massachusetts State Police, like, how they operate, or if there's exceptions, or if Nicholson's character grease wheels or
and
whatever. But you would be, if you're a recently graduated academy recruit, you would be the worst
plain clothes
detective, plain clothes. Yeah. Handling undercover.
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. Yeah.
It would be like handing your kindergartner a calculus book. It's just, there's a lot you got to go through.
I understand a lot of the suspension of disbelief when it comes to these films in general, like, oh come on, and all that kind of stuff. But I always think it's funny is, like, you have the four police officers who are in the academy shown at the beginning of the movie, or Anthony Anderson, James Badgedale, DiCaprio, and Damon, and they were all well into their 30s, and you're just like, they're okay. 4 guys in their 30s starting a police academy is like, it's kind of a strange time to start becoming a cop.
You know what? I'll actually disagree with you.
Really? Okay.
I actually will. I started when I was 21. And there were several other, like, 21, 22-year-old dudes.
Okay.
But actually, the guy that sat next to me was in his 40s.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll give you that then. Okay.
I would say, I was a youngster.
Sure.
There. I was on the young end.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of guys getting out of the military.
That makes sense.
Especially during the time that I
Sure.
started, there were a lot of guys coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan.
Okay.
And so they were transitioning from the military.
That made more sense.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I'll say that's not crazy.
Okay, so I was curious just about the idea. So a lot of the film, watching the film, it was a lot of like a time capsule of cell phones. Like, everybody has flip phones.
I specifically brought this up last night.
It's like everybody has flip phones, like, and all these kind of things.
It was nostalgic.
It was very nostalgic. I was like, I had that phone. It's like, look, it's Sprint. Like, yeah, exactly. So you see all these things, and that being said, for a guy who's a mole for the mob as a police officer, Matt Damon is really not subtle with communication. Like, I know this was kind of in the general starting out of cell phone technology and triangulation and all that kind of stuff. But these days it's like, well, you would never in a million years have a cell phone to talk, your phone to talk to somebody, and you would have a different phone. You'd never do it in the building and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean,
you wouldn't do it in your office.
Like, dad. Yeah. Right in front of Martin Sheen in the middle of a stakeout or about to plan a raid. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So, I saw a lot of that too. Now, I was curious about Dignam and the general, his general demeanor, because he doesn't act like anybody. He's just going to say the most crass, terrible thing, whatever he's going to say. My
favorite character in this movie?
Absolutely, and I mean, was there a lot of that kind of? I mean, obviously not that brash, but there were varying degrees of that throughout the.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a career that is not for the weak of heart.
Sure.
And yeah, personal interactions. I mean, guys bust your balls, and
Sure.
it's yeah, it's not, you know, a playground
Sure.
area. These
Yeah.
are it is in general, I'll say. I mean, I only worked for one law enforcement agency in my life, but
Yeah.
In general, that profession is I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. And if you
Sure.
don't want to get fucking cussed at, flipped off, insulted,
Sure.
you're in the wrong line of business. I
Of
mean,
course.
this is not for sensitive people. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, a lot of smart asses, a lot of really intelligent dudes, but I mean, a lot of tough motherfuckers.
Sure.
You just don't want
Sure.
to mess with.
Sure.
I mean, I remember going through the academy, and there was a couple of guys specifically who were instructors at the time. I was fucking terrified of. I mean,
get it.
I was, and it was that type of character.
Just yeah, the brash, just like, this guy does not care about me as a person.
He'll beat my ass right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
consequences be damned. He'll beat the shit out of me right here. Yeah. So that scene, like whenever Billy Costigan first gets recruited into undercover, and all the shit that
just going back and forth. Yeah.
I mean, it's over dramatized. It's
sure. It's Hollywoodized, of course.
But, yeah, it's a bunch of tough people.
So I really like I'm with you. I do like Wahlberg's performance. I think it's the best performance he's given. And
absolutely.
And I also think it never was better than that, and it never got better after that. And
right.
I think it's like, this was the perfect situation for brash Mark Wahlberg, bringing what he had, his attitude, all that kind of stuff, and then whatever Scorsese did to temper it and put it on film. It's the perfect time for that to happen, because ever since then, he's probably been too famous. Like, he's probably, like, he makes too much money now, and he's probably a producer, and he'll have a director who probably doesn't like. Oh, so you've seen the film Shooter?
Yes.
So that's a great example. Shooter is a film where he went in going, I am this guy, I am this, and I'm doing this. And the director goes, yes, Mr. Producer Mark Wahlberg, you were going to do this. And Martin Scorsese goes, okay, I want you to do this at this angle, at this type of way, because of this character, what it is. I want you to bring this, as opposed to, it's not built around him. And he's really not in the movie much.
No, not really. But I definitely agree with you that this is the best performance I've seen out of him that I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, he's in movies that I really like, but generally when I see his performances, I'm like, he's not very good.
And
really.
And even movies where the good films where he's not bad, he's not necessarily bringing anything to it, like Lone Survivor or The Fighter or things like that. He's not meant to be the character. He's more reserved. Like Lone Survivor, I think, being a good example of that, where his character is not the draw of the film. I mean, he's the one that survives. He's the lone survivor, but everybody else is kind of the more interesting character.
Yeah. Good point.
And he just kind of lays the background. Go ahead.
You know, I'm like thinking about it. I mean, I guess it makes sense, because it's like, hey, can you be an asshole from South Boston?
Yeah.
That's not even an acting job.
Yeah, it's if somebody said, "Hey man, the accents in The Departed are the best ever," and it's like, well, if you have
Everyone's from
if you
fucking
if you
Boston.
have Boston Matt Damon and Boston Mark Wahlberg there, they're doing 90% of the work, and DiCaprio is a bit of a loon, so he'll just devote himself to that.
Yeah.
So this is the
Yeah,
first.
that's like telling us, like, you do a good job of sounding like you're from Texas.
Oh, really? Do we? Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
Might be a reason for that.
It's funny though, because even Texas being a good example of that is whenever people think of a Boston accent, this is the Boston accent they're essentially thinking of. Though it's not necessarily like, I'm sure different parts of Boston. It's the same thing as how our accents are compared to East Texas. East Texas is probably what people think of when they think of Texas accents, and ours are much more muted, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the Damon DiCaprio of it all because, especially when I was watching it last night, I had kind of had the opinion that I'm not the DiCaprio acolyte that a lot of people are. Like that he can't do no wrong. He's like. I think a lot of his work is not as a little overrated. That being said, I think this is his best performance, and I don't think there's a close second. I think he is spectacular in this film. I don't necessarily think Matt Damon did a bad job. I think he did what was supposed to be done for the character. Like he's essentially supposed to be a smarmy charm machine who can occasionally kill people. And
well, yeah, the thing is he's acting in a role in which he has to be acting.
Yes.
So it reminds me of that line from, what was that stupid ass movie where Robert Downey Jr.
It's I'm a
dude
acting as a dude trying to play another dude. Yeah.
It's almost that.
Yeah.
So you almost can't blame him for looking like he's acting.
Yeah. But I think the job he does is the job that the movie needed to have. Like, I don't think I wouldn't have cast somebody else besides Matt Damon doing what he did.
Right.
All the DiCaprio stuff is everything he does is so captivating, but it's not like, remember last week when we were talking about Ryan Gosling supposed to blend into a crowd? That's why at points of this, I'm like, man, DiCaprio really nails the random guy despite being Leonardo DiCaprio, he looks like just a dude. And
that's, as far as being an undercover cop, that is precisely what you want.
You just want to look like a somebody. And
you're there.
At a lot of points in this movie, DiCaprio with a hat, jacket, whatever, nothing special about him, could walk through a crowd and nobody would notice. Right. And that's very much the point of it. The funny thing,
being a good UC.
The funny thing about that is I watched it with my wife as well. And the entire time we were watching it, I'm just like, he's real good looking in this. And my wife goes, oh yeah. Like, it's like Titanic, he was a kid. Here, he's an adult.
Yeah.
And he's a good looking guy in this movie. I agree.
All grown up now.
Yeah. This is probably the movie I think of whenever I'll think of like DiCaprio in his 30s. Like the, young Titanic, that's in his 20s, and all this stuff he does nowadays when he's later. But this is like, okay, he's an adult, but he's not grown. There doesn't feel like there's maturity there. I think it's his best performance, but yeah.
Yeah. The only other, he does such a great job of conveying that stress.
Yes, he really does.
Of just being like, man, I'm fixing to get whacked. Like, they're going to find me out. Like, he does a great job of just bringing that intensity without overdoing it.
Yes.
Like, showing his internal angst.
Yes.
Basically.
He's so terrified something happens, pops through Oxycontin and moves on with his day. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And the only other performance that I can think of that comes close is maybe Shutter Island. He's pretty good in, I think.
What about What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
I thought he was great in that.
I know. So but it's not really a lead
that's
performance.
Obviously
that's it's younger, it's different, it's more showy. This is the
and he's got to play, a special needs dude. And
so this is one of those like, well,
different.
Why is he so good? What does he do that's like, it's no trick. It's not like he's playing a fur trapper who eats elk bison. No. There's not that. He's not the kid with special needs climbing cell phone towers. None of those tricks are there. It's just him, and it works. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he doesn't overdo it.
Yes. I think he
has, I don't know, he's able to convey that just angst.
Yes.
That stress. And I mean, there's even little things like he's going out with the crew when he's still undercover, and and you can he looks just so spent.
Yeah.
Like he's only existing on prescription medication
pretty much.
And they're like, all right, let's go. And he just sits up and goes.
Yeah, it's his face and moves on with the day. He goes, all right. Like, yeah.
And goes, I don't know. He just conveys that anxiety.
And he's just beaten down. Yes.
Extreme fatigue.
Yes.
Stress. Yeah, I don't know. He does a great job at it. I don't know what his trick is, but
so I really, really love this movie, but I'm always torn with it because I love this movie that I have major problems with. And all the major problems, speaking of overdoing it, are Jack Nicholson related. I mean, whatever. So I'm not going to deny that Jack Nicholson at a time was the most dynamic, interesting actor in Hollywood. And the way the choices he made were so, that you mentioned The Shining. It's like, I'm not sure a whole lot of people could convey what he conveyed in that movie. All the stuff he did in the 70s and 80s were always really impressive. Even as he got older. I think a lot of what we were talking about with Wahlberg, wherever he was like, I'm not going to tell him no. I think Scorsese fell under that problem with Nicholson, and we're like, okay, I should have done something else. I'm not sure.
Back or something.
Yeah, he's like, I should have reeled in his worst instincts. I don't know who I'd have in that role, because it needs to be. There are times when he does seem genuinely terrifying, but generally he just seems more buffoonish.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to, if you're a murderous crime boss,
yeah,
of a major ring, you kind of have to be a crazy ass.
Yeah.
Some bitch. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there are parts that I think he really does well, but there's a lot of the shenanigans of everything. Okay, so whenever later in the movie, whenever Fitzy goes and buries somebody in the marsh, and great character. He's yelling at him. He's like, I pulled all night, pulled that. I'm embarrassed. Yeah, that's a good one. But whenever he's yelling at him, you're like, man, this is where the terror comes from. And then he throws this ain't reality TV line in there at the end. You're like, it's like you almost had it. Like, it's like
that one confused me.
Yeah, it's like, that was definitely a Nicholson ad. Like, it's like, well, why? Like, everything is on. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do, and then you just have to. It's just like,
so close.
The other thing,
I love when he's like, oh, someone walking their dog found him out. That's a big fucking dog, man.
Three feet of Fitzgibbons. Yeah, it's just like, is that how you spell citizens? It's like, are you kidding me? That ain't fucking right. Like, yeah, that's.
I love that character.
That's a good one. Yeah, there's a lot of fun little small characters in this. I'll go through a couple fun ones. There's Kristen Dalton as Gwen, Frank's young redheaded. I don't know if mistress is the right word. She just kind of hangs out and sleeps with him, and then occasionally be like, "I got choir practice." Kevin Corrigan as Sean Costigan, Billy's screw up junkie brother cousin.
Yeah,
he's fun. You have Mark Ralston as Tim Delahunt. Where else do you know Mark Ralston from? He's the police officer, or the gangster, the other undercover gangster who got gut shot. Does he seem familiar at all?
Oh, is he? Yeah. Hang on.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah. Come on.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yes,
sir. He's the head of the Queens.
That's right.
That's
correct.
Queens or
the sisters.
That's not right. Sisters.
Sisters. Yeah. Yes. Correct. Yes. So yeah.
Yep.
See him. You're like, hey. And
anyone get at you yet?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I could be a real good friend to you.
He's really good in it. Also, Anthony Anderson showing up. This is before Anthony Anderson lost the weight that you know him as now, and but he wasn't as big as Anthony Anderson ever got. You're like, hey, Anthony Anderson, that's fun. Ray Winstone is Frenchie. I love Frenchie.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about conveying terror for some reason, just through the sake of looking at somebody. It's like, I always like Ray Winstone anytime he pops up in anything. And then Alec Baldwin as the Captain Ellerby, who I cannot imagine this man ever actually being a captain in real life. I mean, what a
you should have seen the guy I worked with.
Well, it's good to know. It's good to know.
Not to drag skeletons out of the closet, but
okay, so as I said earlier, I talked a little bit about the fact that this was based on the Hong Kong movie Infernal Affairs. I had the opportunity to watch it before we recorded this, so it was well done, very well done. I understand why they optioned the movie. A couple things difference. One, it's an hour shorter. Essentially, it goes from them in the academy to the first that stakeout meeting. That stakeout where he's in essentially there's a version of that with, instead of Chinese, they are Chinese, and they're talking to guys from Thailand trying to Thailand trying to get drugs and all that kind of stuff.
And this is set in Hong Kong?
This is set in Hong Kong, yeah.
Okay.
And it's almost the general idea being exactly the same. A guy is becoming a police officer, and they're like, hey, I think you'll be better as an undercover guy. So they stage him getting kicked out. And the triad group puts a couple of their guys in the academy.
Gotcha.
So it goes to all that. There is no Dignam. It's essentially just one. Dignam and Captain Queenan are essentially kind of the same character. He does get thrown off the roof. Almost in the exact same situation. There's a thing like that. The Costello character is much more just kind of like a sweet guy, and the love that people show for, he's not really all that brutal in the movie. So the big change is that there is the wife of the cop and the therapist to the criminal are two different women.
Wow.
So, so they're separate characters there. The big, huge change is that he gets away with it at the end of the movie. He doesn't get killed. So they kill. So the undercover,
so like Matt Damon.
Matt Damon gets away with it.
Oh, okay.
So that's the big difference.
I like that he got shot.
Yeah, he gets away with it, and then they made sequels. But very good movie if you have a chance to. As I said, great name, Infernal Affairs. So
hey, that is Yeah,
it's
I
pretty
like that.
snazzy title. Yeah, so they made a couple of them. It was the highest grossing movie in Hong Kong in 2002, made more money than Harry Potter. So that's why they optioned it. Do you have I just wanted to speak on that real quick. Speaking of the therapist wife angle, you have a lot of Vera Farmiga thoughts. I mean, you don't see you see her in a couple things every once in a while. I know you've seen Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Yeah. The first other thing that comes to mind is
Up in the Air, or
no, the Bates Motel. There was
yes, she played. Yes, that's
she played the mom.
She did. Yes, she was on that for a long time.
Trying to think what else.
So she's
What
an
else I've seen her.
Oscar nominee for Up in the Air. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. It's with George Clooney. He goes around and fires people for a living. It's not exactly a uplifting movie, but it's a good one. Another undercover police officer movie, Running Scared. Good in that one. A lot of different random stuff. Boy in Striped Pajamas. She was in Orphan.
Oh yeah.
Source Code. The Conjuring movies is the big thing she's known of these days. But still doing in a lot of different stuff these days. But it's funny because in this movie, coming into the movie, you're like, okay, who's all in this? And we're talking 1996 wise. You're like, okay, DiCaprio, Damon, Nicholson, Wahlberg, Sheen, Alec Baldwin, Vera Farmiga. You're like, who is Vera Farmiga? And I really like what she does with everything in this movie. She comes across as, kind of duplicitous as well in her own way, not obviously being duplicitous as a character, as a character to the audience. But I mean, seeing both sides of these guys and their true natures in both sides as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, she comes across definitely as nurturing, I think wants to do her job well, but probably overly sympathetic.
Yeah.
As far as, I mean, you've got to compartmentalize that stuff.
Sure.
Obviously, fucking two clients isn't really the.
It's not ideal.
No, but she does a good job. I think she comes across as someone, that's naive but well intentioned.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and get onto it's this week's poll for a dumbass, because I am curious how familiar you are with the films of Mr. Martin Scorsese. All right, so the filmography of Martin Scorsese. So we're not going to go all through every single one of his films because he does a lot of documentaries and a lot of it's
no one has that much time.
Well, he does a lot of music stuff. So he started in 1967 with a small movie called Who's That Knocking at My Door? Not worrying about that one. His first one, really, if anybody's ever heard of, is called Boxcar Bertha in 72. We're going to start in 1973 with the film Mean Streets.
Nope.
That's a really good. That's a young Robert De Niro, exceptional movie. It's probably one of his best. 1974, Mean Streets, yes. 1974, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. That is Ellen Burstyn actually won an Oscar, her and Chris Christopherson. So we're 0 for 2 thus far, but I'm optimistic going forward. 1976, his true breakthrough, Taxi Driver. Yes. Probably my favorite Scorsese. 1977, the flop that nobody has seen with De Niro and Liza Minnelli, New York, New York. No, exactly. Nobody's seen it. It almost ended his career. Now his career was revitalized in 1980 with Raging Bull.
Oh, hell yeah.
I actually only saw it for a couple, maybe a month ago. I had never seen it before.
Really?
Got Robert De Niro his second Oscar. Another De Niro Now, the 80s for Scorsese was kind of strange. 1982, The King of Comedy with De Niro and Jerry Lewis. No, yeah, it's not surprising. In 1985, the really different type of thing, After Hours. No, not surprising as well.
No.
Now we might be getting back on track here. 1986, the Paul Newman sequel to The Hustler, The Color of Money.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
Young Tom Cruise, very good film there. 1988, his first foray into Catholic guilt, The Last Temptation of Christ.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
I also have not seen it. Jesus is played by Willem Dafoe. It's better than it sounds. 1990. I don't know why I'm asking, because you've definitely seen it. Goodfellas. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Top. Yeah. Definitely top 10 for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a movie that's probably the one that suits his sensibilities more than any other.
That's my favorite gangster movie.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think I have it number 2 or 3 on Scorsese list for me, but it's I think it's a 5-star movie. It's not like I don't like it.
Yeah.
Exceptional. Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about that.
Now, I know you've seen this one because you talk about how creepy it is. 1991's Cape Fear.
Oof.
Nothing more.
It's good, but
nothing more
it's
unsettling
creepy.
than Robert De Niro speaking in tongues as he's drowning.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So back to the other side of things. 1993's The Age of Innocence.
Nope.
It's a wonderful film.
The Age of Innocence.
It's kind of like Edward. It's set in New York in the early 20th century. Very refined. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay.
But very
I'm
very.
a DDL fan.
I am too. Very buttoned down. Great performance. Him, Michelle Pfeiffer, Winona Ryder. Very good. 1995's Casino.
Oh yeah, of course.
Casino's a little overrated for me. It's on TV a lot.
See that.
It's on TV a lot. I've seen it a lot, but 1997, there's no chance in the depths of hell you have seen or heard of this movie, Kundun.
That's actually my number 1 all-time favorite.
You
movie.
are lying. It is about the Dalai. It is about the Dalai Lama. You have
Yep.
Scorsese couldn't even get it really distributed because of China issues. Because whenever you talk about Dalai Lama, it always gets a little iffy. 1999, a America Plus staple, Bringing Out the Dead. Nicolas Cage as an ambulance driver.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because it was on TV a lot, and you're like, this is a weird movie.
Is that why you asked me what that channel was?
That's exactly why I asked you why that channel was, because I remember watching Bringing Out the Dead all the time on that.
Yep.
His first collaboration of many collaborations with Leonardo DiCaprio, 2002's Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
Yep. Another great Daniel Day-Lewis performance. Almost won himself another Oscar. 2004, DiCaprio Part 2, The Aviator.
Yeah, I saw it.
Not surprised. It was
all right.
Trying a little hard. It was fine. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
It was a movie.
Exactly. 2006 was The Departed. 2010, you've previously mentioned Shutter Island.
Yep.
Really good surprise. There's a surprise to me. Like I went in with kind of low expectations and really enjoyed it.
I really, really like it. But another one where, it's confusing. There's a lot to unpack.
Lot to unpack. Yes. That's a good point.
Me and my wife watched that on the plane on our way to our honeymoon.
I can't think of anything more heartwarming. Speaking of heartwarming, actually heartwarming, a children's movie, 2011 Hugo. It is about a boy stuck in a train station. Cute little movie. Was nominated for like 12 Oscars. Cute little movie, a lot to do with filmmaking from the early 1900s. Ben Kingsley, Sacha Baron Cohen is in it. A lot of it's a cute movie. You can show your kids. It was perfectly fine. The film not to show your kids, 2013, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, that's yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
The exact
definitely like kids are in bed.
This is
movie.
So that's the film that deviates from my Scorsese love for most people, because I don't like The Wolf of Wall Street. I don't think it's very good, and I don't think DiCaprio does a very good job in it. It's just it's a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it, really.
His Catholic Guilt #2, 2016, Silence, a film very few people have seen. It's about Jesuit priests in Japan.
Man, that's always a crowd,
Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, Liam Neeson. No?
Yeah, Jesuit priests in Japan.
I
don't know why it wasn't a hit.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people really like it. I still haven't seen it. It's one of my few blind spots for him. 2019's his most recent film, 2019's The Irishman.
I haven't seen it.
You would know. I despised it. I thought it was his worst movie. I think it's his worst movie. A lot of people think it's a masterpiece, and I think these people are insane. I watched it once. It's 3.5 hours.
I don't have that kind of
time. His next film will be coming out next year. Killers of the Flower Moon, based off of the book.
Yes, I have read it. Extremely good book.
Yes,
factual.
And DiCaprio will be in it as well.
Really?
Yes, nice. He is playing. He's playing the husband to the Native American lady.
Okay.
Jesse Plemons will also be in it. He's the other main character. And I believe the bad guy is Robert De Niro.
Nice. I look forward to that.
Yeah. So that'll come out next year.
I look forward to that. That's a fascinating story. Really good book. So
we'll see what happens. So that went about what I expected to go. Like I'm not surprised you have. There was nothing in there. I was like, I'm surprised you haven't seen everything I expected you to watch. You had seen, and obviously you didn't see Kundun or Silence or The Last Temptation of Christ. Like that's essentially what Scorsese does here and there. He does a lot of in this movie. He does a lot of movie nerd stuff. And I kept pointing that out last night, but I think I wish he would have had a little more restraint over Nicholson in some of the choices. Like, okay, we get rats, we don't have to throw the rat at the end of the movie and that kind of stuff in there. But generally, I think he did. I very much enjoy this movie. He's been nominated for a lot of Oscars, and this is the one that finally got him his Oscar win. So I don't discount that for him. All right. That's it for me, Jake. What do you have for me?
You know what time it is.
It is time
for you to be in the hot box.
Woo. And the cop-centric movie, this is finally appropriate for me to be in the hot box.
Exactly.
I'm ready.
All right. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can't be used again. All right. So let me ask you this. I'm going to make you think a little bit.
Okay.
What link does this movie have to the Oakland Athletics baseball team?
Okay, so the link to the Oakland Athletics baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
So instinctually, I would already said Brad Pitt and Billy Bean and the Moneyball stuff, but I don't think that's the route you're going. As far as the Oakland Athletics baseball team, Boy, you really put me on this. So okay, so it's set in Boston. So it's around 2006. I have no idea. Can you throw me a little bit of a hint or something like that? Or
okay, let's Little League Baseball.
Little League Baseball. Okay. Well, I know you played on, whenever you were in Little League, the A's were your team because that was one of your favorite ones. Whenever you played. So boy, I'm gonna be disappointed in myself when you tell me.
Yeah. Why? So, yeah, you already kind of said it. Why were the Oakland A's my favorite baseball team?
I got you now. You're saying the Oakland A's were your favorite baseball team because you played them in Little League. Obviously, them being in Boston in this movie, that's the reason I loved the Boston Red Sox when I was a kid, because I played on the Boston Red Sox in Little League, even though we lived in Texas. So yes, very well done. That's a fun stretch. That's a fun stretch. Yeah, because you just see those Red Sox hat all over the place, and obviously in the middle of Boston. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm proud of you for that one, buddy.
Well, yeah, and I told Alex, I was like, "Oh, the Red Sox are Ben's favorite team." She was like, "What?" I was like, "She's like Boston." She's like, "Did y'all go to Boston?"
No,
like,
never been close. No, it was because
I said, "Why am I an Oakland A's fan?
Yeah.
I've been to Oakland once, and it was terrifying."
Yes. It has nothing to do with it. Like when you're a kid, the logic behind why you do what you do as a kid doesn't have to make any sense. Like, why am I a San Jose Sharks hockey fan? Because they were Sharks, and I was a kid. It was cool. Like it doesn't. That's literally the reason. So there didn't have to be any. That's a fun connection. That's a fun one to bring up. That's good. I like it.
Yeah, and I like movies set in Boston.
Yeah.
What was the other one I was thinking of? The Town.
Yes. Another good one.
There's there's just so much you can do with that culture.
It has a cool environment. Yeah.
Almost what you can do with like cowboy culture or Western culture.
Yep.
You can do the same thing with that area.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, like they're Boston movies, Chicago movies, and then like New York, LA movies, obviously. But there's not a whole lot of those cities that can have like a city type movie, and Boston is definitely one of those.
Yeah. All right. So can you name probably the most famous Irish mobster in the modern era that was not too long ago in the news?
Yeah, I'm Whitey Bulger.
Yep.
Yes, because
Whitey Bulger. Yep.
Whitey Bulger. Excuse me. Speaking of a Boston movie, the film Black Mass with Johnny Depp, a movie I really don't like.
Yeah.
There's some good parts to it, but I mean, a lot of missed potential there. But yeah, Whitey Bulger. This was he died 4 years ago? Not very long ago, right?
Maybe like 2018 or
something like that. That sounds right. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, Whitey Bulger. Yeah. Passed away in 2018. Very well said.
Oh, there you go. All right. So name the federal crime statute that most frequently is used to take down organized criminal or organized crime criminal organizations.
Okay, so is it RICO?
Yeah.
RICO. Okay, so what does RICO stand for? Because I've heard RICO cases and I know what it means. It means they can charge one person with conspiracy. That means they can get the entire criminal organization with a conspiracy.
Yeah, it's kind of it's racketeering Well, shit.
I'll look it up. I got it.
Racketeering.
Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations
There you
Act.
go. The feds love their what do you call them?
Acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love them.
Yeah. So a RICO case, that makes sense. That's exactly what, that was a really interesting part of this film. Whenever DiCaprio's in the back of the car talking to Martin Sheen, and he's like, "You seen him murder somebody, and you can't take him." It's like, so we're building a case, and you're like, "Come on, God!" Like you literally see him murder people. Yeah, it's a
yeah. Well, and it's kind of like shit. Of course, I'm sitting here trying to ask you questions.
No, it's
I can't remember shit, but Al Capone.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, he was taken down
tax evasion. Yeah,
tax evasion, even though he was, so
same thing happened to Mickey Cohen. I mean, yeah, it's whatever it's going to take him to get him in jail. It makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so this was specifically mentioned. Another federal statute that's frequently used with large organizations, and it's specifically mentioned in the movie by Alec Baldwin.
The Patriot Act.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's close enough after 9/11 that you still kind of have all that 9/11 based legislation that got pushed through specific to, and the Patriot Act. It has such a name connotation to it. I'm sure it probably did a lot of good, but it always just kind of has a negative thing to it. They still use it. Yes, they do. They use it all the time.
Yeah. Look it up real quick if you.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
I believe it's an acronym as well.
No joke.
I'm not kidding.
The U.S. Well, I can tell you right now, you're right, because it's capitalized Patriot. Mm-hmm. So, providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. That is embarrassing.
I think.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I've gone through federal training, law enforcement training, and there has to be a fully staffed federal building somewhere
just for acronyms.
And the name of their building would be a goddamn acronym.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one better. The official name of the Patriot Act is the USA Patriot Act. USA is also an acronym, not the United States of America. So the whole name is Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. That is embarrassing. That is so bad.
I'm telling you, it's the feds.
They just love.
Man,
I work for
probably about a search warrant to be executed on
I work for a technology company that uses a lot of acronyms as well. We call them TLAs, 3-letter acronyms. And we have an actual Wikipedia page on our company website for acronyms, because somebody will throw something out and you're like, I don't know what that means, and then gotta look it up. And I mean, there are thousands. So I mean, I get it, but yeah. What guy was sitting in a boardroom going, USA Patriot Act, and he's like, I'm gonna make every one of these letters mean something, and they're just like, whatever, Jerry. Like,
well, that guy's still on the staff. I mean,
all right.
Okay. So back to sports.
Yes.
We'll go Boston area.
Okay.
As we've mentioned, longtime Boston Red Sox fan you are.
Yep.
All right. What's your favorite all-time Red Sox player?
Okay, so I have the first one that came to mind was Mo Vaughn. Mo Vaughn was he was a big first baseman He was Big Papi before Big Papi was there. He hit huge home runs. He was a big fat guy. Like he didn't look like he was ever really in that good of shape. I remember two specific instances. One video I watched yesterday. A Red Sox pitcher threw at a White Sox hitter, and the White Sox hitter was charging the mound. And before he got there, Mo Vaughn spear tackled him and never got him out of the way. The other one was actually against the Texas Rangers. They were fighting against each other. And for some reason, Mo Vaughn was kind of like a gentle giant guy. And he had the Rangers in one arm and the Red Sox in the other arm and was just going in the between. I loved Mo Vaughn. He was my guy. Like, and
well, that's what I had in mind. And I remember that fight. That was great.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, it's like, how do you keep two teams on one arm? It's impressive. But I mean, I always loved Mo Vaughn. I'll always love Mo Vaughn.
He was Prince Fielder if he was good.
Yes. Yeah. Not non-hurt Prince Fielder. I mean, Mo Vaughn probably, I have a feeling that Prince Fielder probably has better stats, but he was still lovable. I agree. Yeah. But somebody's a little bitter.
Yeah. All right. Favorite Boston Celtics player?
Okay.
If you have one.
Yeah. I can probably think of, like, I always had an affinity for Paul Pierce, not specifically for any other reason than I was like, well, he was always there. He was always the Boston guy. Like he was the Boston, like I was too young I never watched Larry Bird and Paul Pierce was the Boston guy who was always there whenever we were kids. Like he was on the Celtics for as long as I can remember and he got his championship and still on TV a lot. So he's probably the one I always think of.
All right. Yeah, I still remember Larry Bird playing. Like when I was first starting in basketball.
Yeah.
It was like the twilight of the
Sure.
Larry Bird years.
Yeah, you're at the end. Yeah.
So I don't know if he was like inspiration for a white guy or.
Well, the apparently the joke is whenever you're playing pickup, whenever in the 80s and 90s, you're a white guy, you're always Larry Bird. Like it's just who you are. And nowadays, I think you're Luka. Now you're Luka Doncic. It's like you're the white guy playing. You're Luka. Yeah, exactly.
All right. And I think you've mentioned this in a previous episode, but I'll go ahead and ask you.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of gangster movies.
Yes.
I love gangster movies. As I've said, Goodfellas is my favorite gangster movie. So your favorite gangster movie?
I always feel cheap saying The Godfather Part 2 because so many people are like, well, you can't like The Godfather Part 2 without The Godfather Part 1. I'm like, yeah, but this is true. You can't. It's like you have to have the backstory of what happened in The Godfather and everything established to make it happen. Yeah. But everything that happens in The Godfather 2 is expanded and so much richer and perfect in every way. It's The Godfather 2. It's the gangster guy doing the stuff he's doing, trying to make his family better, but making it fall apart, and the flashbacks to his dad rising and all that kind of stuff. It's perfect. Though Goodfellas is probably close second.
Yeah.
I mean, Goodfellas is so interesting because it's not a boss. It's not bosses. They're just guys. Right. They're just dudes in the chain. And that's what makes it so interesting. Bees. Yeah, worker. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Worker bees. And they focus on three guys, and two of them can never get higher than where they are because they're not Italian. Like it's just that stuff, like that little minutia stuff that you don't think of. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ben, you're free to go.
I appreciate it, buddy. So we are just about done. What is your film rating? What is your rating for The Departed?
Very, very good. I really, really like this movie. But at the same time, it wouldn't make like top 30. It's
not one of those you watch. You're like, man, it's so perfect. It's not one of those absolute all-timers.
I mean, it's almost not rateable for me.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I really, really like this movie.
I know what you mean.
But I just maybe wouldn't put it on a list.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Does that
do.
make sense?
I do know exactly what you mean for that exact reason. Now I am a very much a list guy. It's what I do, and
Mhm.
Letterboxd is you can follow me on Letterboxd at Neb10. Letterboxd being the perfect resource to do so. I have a ranking of all my movies from 2006. I have my ranking for all the Scorsese movies. I have rankings for all the Best Picture winners. So Departed's the mid tier for Best Picture winners. I have it fifth in Scorsese movies, behind Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Age of Innocence, and Mean Streets. So it's not up there as far as like in elite film. But I do very much enjoy it. Like I said, I very much enjoy this as a film that I have major problems with. I have 4.5 out of 5, so it's not like it's a 3. So I think very highly of it. I think it's a good Best Picture winner. I'm not sure I would take anybody else out of it. There's no like glaring like, oh, this one obviously should have won. It was the same year as Letters at Iwo Jima and Flags of Our Fathers. Same year as United 93. A rough movie I don't necessarily enjoy watching, but it's a very well-made movie. Casino Royale, The Prestige. But I mean, it's a film I enjoy and will continue to enjoy throughout the years. Is there anything else you'd like to add about The Departed?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's yeah, like I said, it's a real good flick. And yeah, it gets a little confusing sometimes, and it's not a mindless movie that you can sit down and watch.
I agree. You have to be
kind of
you have to be paying attention.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah, but no, it's very good. I really enjoy it, and I mean, it's a movie I can rewatch, but also one I'm not gonna watch.
Not going to go out of your way. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out. You can check out the film Infernal Affairs on Apple. I think you can get it for I think it's $4 to rent. It is in subtitles, but it's a nice 1 hour 40 minutes. You can kind of see a lot of the different things, like the conversation about the two gangsters saying like, we can tell who are cops. That's almost verbatim. It's almost verbatim. There's a lot of stuff scene. A lot of stuff happens on rooftops. A lot of the same things happen. I think that just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic of the Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebHasBeen, on Letterboxd at Neb10, on Instagram at Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, Ice Cream for Freaks, where you can catch up all the old episodes of this as well as any other podcasts I've been on. You can find my other writing on the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. You can find me on other pods. I'm the David Thewlis of podcasting. Jake, where can people find you?
I'll tell you what, I'll have my people get a hold of you.
No. Don't reach out. I will call you. Don't worry. No.
Yeah.
We'll sync it up. Yes. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast on every possible platform. We will catch you guys next time. Thank you.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?